Greetings, everybody. I'm Scott Rodell here at the Great River Taoist Center, and today I have a really interesting saber to share with you, a saber with a secret. But before I reveal what exactly that secret is, probably a lot of people are wondering, why such a short saber, a Chinese duandao like this? What's the use of something that's so short like this? I mean, if you're thinking of dueling or having a sort of sword fight, protecting yourself, whatever, wouldn't you have something much more robust like this? Wouldn't you rather carry this? I mean, here is, that's a really good solid saber. This is a very typical late Qing oxtail saber. Can very definitely give a very solid cut with a sword like this. I mean, just drawing it, it's going to be a lot more intimidating than a short little saber like that. So why would you not carry this? Why would you carry the duandao instead of the full-length saber? Well, I think the answer to that's actually a practical one. If you were a soldier in the field, if you're escorting a caravan, something like that, you're in a situation where you think, we need to be ready to go. We might really be protecting ourselves, fighting for our lives. Then you're going to want a sword like this, one that can really deliver that powerful, devastating kind of cut that you would need in a melee. You can really deliver a robust cut with a blade like this. This looks quite a nice, solid oxtail. However, if you think about more day-to-day, even a police officer today doesn't carry around an assault rifle. They might have them in the car or something, but the average, he just has his pistol. This is kind of the same thing. If you were a man of means, somebody of status, maybe an official, maybe just somebody with a lot of money, you might be a target of some criminals, some random violence. This is a lot more convenient. Imagine, you're going to meet your friends, just going to hang out, throw some dice, maybe go to the tea house. Do you want to be carrying this thing around all day? It's rather heavy, it's several pounds, and it's large, it's bulky, it's big. Imagine yourself, you're going down the street. There's rickshaws, there's vendors, there's peddlers carrying stuff. You have that big saber on your hip, swinging around or in your hand. It's a bit cumbersome, it gets in the way. Something like this makes a lot more sense. If I have that strapped to my hip, I can just put my hand on it as I'm walking along. Boom, no big deal walking. It's not going to bump into people. It's not going to swing around a whole lot. When I get to the tea house, if I don't have it in my hand, if I had it clipped on my belt, I'll take it off, set it on the table. It's not taking up a lot of space. So for every day, this is really good. Other people use this for the bailiffs. In the Chinese court during the Qing Dynasty, they served all kinds of roles, one of which would be, keeping order on the streets, but also when the magistrate sends them out to go get somebody. Maybe they're going into a place where, it's a back alleys and so on, or smaller situations into somebody's home. Sometimes a full-length sword like that, when you draw it, you don't have room to wield it. If you've ever been to Beijing or any city in China, when I was traveling in those days, going in Beijing, you go back in the back alleys, kind of cutting through someplace, taking a shortcut. Sometimes there's very little space. There's all kinds of stuff around. Nowadays, there's people coming on scooters and stuff. But there would have been the occasional person on horseback, somebody a cart, people delivering stuff. Not a lot of room to draw and wield a big heavy sword. Plenty of room to use a nice duandao like this. But also, as I was saying, like the bailiffs, they had to transport criminals and they'd have their hands full, they'd have other stuff. And so they don't really need, just again, like a police officer today, doesn't really need the big full-length sword. He just needs something that asserts his authority and a weapon he can use if he needs to. So really these were really quite common from the mid-Qing Dynasty on. You really see a lot of these, we see in the record of what's left to us today, quite a few of them. So, and we can understand why as soon as we think about context. This is for everyday kind of carry as opposed to battlefield, melee, some situation where you know for certain you're going to be fighting for your life. Yeah, you're going for the big saber. Every day, you got this. So what's the big deal about it? Let's first take a look at the sword first before we get into what that secret might be. So if I draw that saber, it's a pretty stout little blade. It's 20 inches long. Just set that down for a moment. It's a 20-inch blade, so it's not, obviously not really long. But again, if I'm in the tea house where I've been gambling and things didn't go my way, or someone thinks I was cheating, all right, you can reach out and touch somebody really significantly with this blade. It's a Chengan steel. That means it has a inserted hardened edge. It's not Sanmei, not 3-plate. Sometimes they were made of 3-plate. This one has the inserted edge, so you can see really got that little frosty line right there at the edge where that's the hardened plate, the harder steel that's inserted and jacketed in the softer laminated steel around it. So it's a really good solid blade. Has a really quite nice horn handle here, an ox horn handle. Fits very comfortably in the hand. Really, that shape just fits right in there really nicely. And I could see, like, yeah, if I had something's up, you can deflect, give a quick cut, straight enough, of course, to give a thrust as well. But also it's got just enough mass. It said it's 20 inches long. That's 51 centimeters. Overall, tip to the pommel, 25.5 inches, 65 centimeters. So, just long enough, you might say. Imagine yourself today in a restaurant, cafe, maybe in a bar. You could use this in a close situation, whereas a full saber, you might not even be able to get it out of the scabbard. Not particularly heavy though, 570 grams, that's 1.25 pounds. I'd say that's just enough if somebody had say a club or maybe a full-size sword. It's coming in at me. Yes, with good binding mechanics, I could deflect, come back in and give him something. But probably if I'm a man of means, I'm not gonna be looking to square off with somebody after I deflect and cut. I'm gonna be getting out of here, running away. So good, solid, everyday carry kind of sword. And absolutely see a lot of these appearing from about the mid-Ming Dynasty, say about 1800 to the close of the dynasty. Quite a lot of these exist in the record, you could say. When we look at the swords that are left to us from the Qing period, and we can sort of date which ones are when, you see from about the mid-Ming Dynasty of the Taiping Rebellion, a lot of rebellions right through the Boxer Rebellion. There's a lot of strife in China, and so there's more and more reason for somebody who's even just has a little bit more money than the average guy to have a sword to protect themselves. So, good everyday carry sword, but what's its secret? Well, you can imagine, okay, if I've drawn my sword and I'm in a melee and I'm dealing with stuff and I'm countercutting and fighting people, that's an advantage. But what about, I could also have my scabbard. Now, if that's there, if we take a look at that scabbard for a moment, and I should point out this originally all had race skin. It was really, nice beige race skin, and it has very, good solid brass fittings. This section in here is a period repair. Not the nicest repair, obviously. It's probably some fabric that's been heavily lacquered. So whoever owned this, or maybe it was their grandfathers or something, was ancestors, whoever owned this, probably fell in hard times. What you really should do is replace the entire scabbard. You could reuse the fittings, but you make a new wood scabbard and either match it up all lacquer or all race skin. Here, that's just sort of a kind of quick and dirty period repair. Sometimes that happens. We don't all have money all the time. Anyway, you got your scabbard, you got your sword. Either you have it out, you're ready to go. But wouldn't it be nice if you had one more sword? And that's its secret. This is really quite tricky here. You see, if you look at that, I put it back in there for the moment. I slide that back in. It looks just a regular old scabbard, right? There's nothing that looks like a grip. The seam and the grip is that top part of the scabbard. So when you draw that, it's there. So where it connects is right underneath, where that seam is right underneath the strap that goes around, the band that goes around to hold the suspension band on. It fits right underneath there. So when that's there, when it's together, you can't tell that I have an extra weapon, a spare, or ready to use, two-handed use. So I would draw that and have another one. This blade, of course, not quite as long as the first. Actually, if you think about that, if I'd drawn the other one, and this is on my hip, I probably would draw this one with my left. So I'd have two, of course. That's the 20-inch or 51 centimeters. This one is 16.5 or 41 centimeters. Not quite as long, but still a pretty good sized blade. 12 and a half ounces or 350 grams. So, you know, about 2/3 the weight of the other. But boy, together you can see, if you know how to train and use two weapons together, this is going to be quite devastating in a fight. And again, if we think about our context, we're in the tea house, maybe we're in the gambling den, or just out on the street where there's lots of people, especially with rickshaws and peddlers and carts. This is a street fighting weapon as opposed to the really full-length saber. So there you are, saber with a secret, an extra hidden blade. I hope you found this as interesting and fun as I did. If you did, we'd always appreciate that subscription and a thumbs up. Hit the bell so you hear about when our next video is out. And until next time, thanks and 再见.